Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3785, and today's date is November 30th, 2025, and the title of the episode is The Central Bank is Trying to Cover Up Their Affordability Crisis. Trump has the solution. Hey, you know what's interesting? While everyone was watching the headlines, the Trump administration just quietly released a document that could reshape the mining sector. This is real, and it's happening right now under Executive Order 14241. This isn't just about mining. It's a national security imperative. In an official report to the White House, the administration just named the Palmer Project in Alaska as a key asset of America's mineral independence. Vizsla Copper has acquired that project. We're talking an estimated $3.5 billion in ground value containing the very copper, zinc, and silver vital for our military and energy grid. This is a government-backed move to fast-track domestic production and puts Vizsla trading in the U.S. under ticker VCUFF at the center of the action. And that's just the beginning for Vizsla Copper. They're led by the same team that propelled Vizsla Silver to $1 billion valuation. With the Palmer acquisition announced less than 48 hours ago, this could mark the start of something monumental. They have the team, the assets, and now the explicit backing of a U.S. administration prioritizing national security. We've seen this happen recently when other Alaska miners like Triology Metals and Nova Minerals got government backing. Their shares shot up over 200%. The Palmer Project was just named in the government report, and the market hasn't priced it in yet. Vizsla Copper trades in the U.S. under the ticker VCUFF and in Canada as VCU.V. They're definitely worth a closer look. Huge thanks to Vizsla Copper for making today's video possible. Check the link in the description below for more information. Just go to vizslacopper.com or click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, they could see that they're going to be having a major problem. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to cover up the affordability crisis that they have created. And if you look at the central bank system, you could see once we came off the gold standard, I mean, yes, once they came into existence, but really when we came off the gold standard, this is when the affordability crisis really hit home. Because once again, when you continually print money and we the people borrow that money and put that money into circulation, what happens? The value of the currency continually declines. It dilutes. So you create inflation. And this is what the central bank has been doing. Not just the central bank itself. I mean, of course, their system is designed that way. But the deep state players within government, they assisted in all of this. And now think about this. As the currency continually devalues over time, which we've seen since 1971 when we came off the gold standard, do you have to make changes in the economy? Do you have to make changes in how you ship things? Do you have to make things cheaper? Does packaging have to be cheaper? Does production have to be cheaper? Of course it does. You need to go to the cheapest places, or you need to ship the cheapest way. So when you really think about it and you think about everything before 1971, we were using glass jars. We were not using plastic the way we're using it today. And when you start to look at it, it's actually the private West Central Bank system that has created the problem that we have today with plastics, where they say, oh, look, it's the people that are causing the problem. You're using plastic bottles. No, the people are not creating plastic bottles. It's the corporations that are creating plastic bottles. But you can't just stop there and blame the corporations. You have to go back and say, why are they creating the plastic bottles? Because once again, if you're going to ship all glass, it would be way too expensive. No one would be able to purchase these items. So they had to come up with ways of shipping cheaper and cheaper and cheaper over time. Plus, they had to move production out of this country, and that production that they couldn't move out of this country, they had to substitute American workers with foreign workers, cheaper labor. So when you start to look at this, they have created an affordability crisis. Now, once again, they're trying to cover up for the central bank. They're trying to convince everyone that Trump is tackling the affordability crisis and he won't be able to get rid of it. Mamdani is doing the same exact thing. He won't be able to get rid of it. But again, that is not true, because you have to remember, Mamdani, what he's trying to do is he's trying to use the people's money to give everything away for free, and there's nothing for free. Trump is bringing in income via the tariffs, weaning us off the central bank system, and eventually is going to remove the system that has created the affordability crisis. So that is very, very different. And I think Trump is letting us know every step of the way that this is exactly what he's doing, because he's already told us that soon the tariff system is going to be able to support the government. We won't need the income tax anymore. And that just tells us right there that he's prepared and ready to wean us off of the central bank. And eventually he's going to restructure the central bank into the Treasury. And we'll be taking an income in a completely different way. And that affordability crisis, and you have to remember, this is the important part, is that inflation is cumulative over time. Doesn't matter if you bring inflation to 0%, the inflation doesn't go away until you pay off the debt, until you get rid of the dilution. And the only way to do that is to pay off the debt. So it's cumulative since 1971. This is why when every single president has said, okay, I got the inflation rate down to 1%, 2%, that's why we don't go back to 1971 prices, because that is all cumulative. It's almost like someone gaining 50 pounds of weight every single year for 4 years. They put on 200 pounds, and now they're saying, well, now I'm only going to put on 5 pounds a year. Does the 200 pounds go away? No, it doesn't. You're just adding 5 more pounds to the already existing 200 pounds that you put on. And that's exactly what's happening in this country. And you can see the deep state players are trying to cover for all this, because they know that Trump's system is going to remove the affordability crisis. And you can see as Trump continually pushes the tariff system, those countries that have been getting free money for a very long time, they're panicking and they realize there's no escape from all of this. And out of the conservative treehouse, Prime Minister Mark Carney is conceding defeat to Trump and positioning the Canadian economy to be compliant with the U.S.-Mexico trade regulations. Carney is not saying that indeed he cannot. He spent over a year telling Canadians that Trump's trade and economic demands are not going to be accepted by Canada. What he is factually doing is exactly what Trump has demanded. Carney is saying he is restricting steel and aluminum imports from non-free trade agreement countries, and he's lowering the tonnage of steel and aluminum that'll be permitted for import. His claim is that this approach will drive up domestic demand and Canadian steel and aluminum, but that's ancillary to the real objective. Trump has demanded Canada stop importing cheap steel and aluminum, mostly from China, including manufactured components that are made with steel and aluminum, like automobiles. Canada would not stop because they could not stop. Their manufacturing-based green energy, climate change economy is more of a component assembly system now. Trump hit Canada with a 35% tariff, and things got ugly. Trump raised the tariff to 50%. The back and forth has gone on all year. Carney now announces restrictions on imported steel and aluminum, as well as restrictions on imported derivative goods that come from steel and aluminum, in combination with a spending plan to bolster the Canadian steel and aluminum manufacturing base. This ends up shifting the Canadian industrial sector to making steel and aluminum products without Chinese import dependency. So he's doing what Trump wants without telling the people of Canada exactly what he's doing. So right there, that tells you everything you need to know. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is we know that during Biden administration / Obama administration, the entire economic system was one gigantic illusion. They made up a ton of jobs that didn't really exist. And you have to remember, they've been replacing American jobs with native-born Americans with foreign-born individuals that they brought into this country. Because, again, it goes back to the original premise. The central bank has created a system that loses value, which means there's inflation. And what you have to do is you have to bring in cheaper and cheaper labor to do the same jobs, just like they had to move manufacturing out of this country to other countries, because if you kept them here, no one would be able to afford anything. And people would wake up and find out that, hey, wait a minute, what's wrong with our system? It doesn't make sense right now. And this is what they've been doing for a very long time. So like the insurance companies and other technology companies, and when you call the call centers and you get someone from India, you get someone, this is why they do this. Because if they paid people top dollar in this country, they go out of, well, they wouldn't be making the profits. I don't know if they go out of business, but the profits wouldn't be there the way they're making it. And some of them wouldn't be able to stay in business because over time it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you can see Trump now is turning the economy. And yes, it doesn't happen on a dime. It's almost like taking a luxury liner ship and you're saying, okay, now we're going to turn it it's a very, very slow turn compared to a 20-foot boat where you could just whip it around and turn. So he's turning the economy very, very slowly. And you can see as we turn, we're removing the foreign-born labor with American people in this country. Now, why would Trump be doing this now? Because you just told us that the American worker is charging too much because companies won't be able to afford this, because he knows what's going to happen later on. He knows that as we wean ourselves off the central bank, the buying power is going to be coming back to the people. When people take a job and let's say whatever salary they're making, maybe it's a little bit more than the foreign-born worker, and they're saying, wow, this is really tough. I could barely make ends meet. And fuel prices come way down. So now the traveling back and forth to work is cheaper. And Trump says, okay, anyone making under $100,000, I'm going to remove your income tax. Let's talk about our health. In recent clinical trial this year, women who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw an average of 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth, 9% improvement in skin elasticity, and 29% book in skin hydration, proving collagen can visibly strengthen and rejuvenate skin from within. This is why I use today's sponsor, BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen, and I'm obsessed with the results it's given my skin. BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen helps supercharge my skin health using 5 premium types of collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, more hydration, fewer fine lines, and a youthful glow. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissues on top of my skin health. For a limited time, you can grab a bag of BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen for 51% off only at healthwithx22.com. Plus, you'll also receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free express shipping with your order. Once again, go to healthwithx22.com to get this deal now, or just click the link in the description. What happened right there? Those people that were making a certain salary, maybe a little bit more than the foreign-born individual, who's saying it's very difficult to make ends meet, all of a sudden they got this influx of buying power, lower energy, and you got all your tax money back. Does this help the person out? Yes. And as Trump continually turns the economy and basically brings the manufacturers back here, gets rid of the inflation, people will already be set up for the future. And you can see this is exactly what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now. The U.S. Department of Labor put this out and said, the Biden administration inflicted incredible damage on the job market for American workers. While foreign-born labor made gains under Biden, native-born Americans lost jobs. It's going to take time, but our mission is to fix this damage and ensure Americans come first. And that's what they're doing. And it says native-born workers minus 1.3 million, foreign-born workers plus 1.2 million. So now you could see that Trump is now switching this around because he knows what's going to happen with the economy later on. He's already setting the Americans up to win in the end. That is exactly what is happening right now. And think about it. Most of the corporations right now where they have all these job openings, most of them are just open recs. And I remember when I was working for a major corporation, we would have these open recs. We would interview people, but we would never, ever hire the people. They didn't, and we said, this is a waste of time. Why are we doing this? Because we don't want to get rid of our open recs. And it's kind of an illusion that they create, like, yeah, we're hiring, but they're really not. Unusual Whales put this out and said, approximately 30% of all job postings are fake, per More Perfect Union. 1 in 3 job postings never result in a hire, based on My Perfect Resume analysis of Bureau of Labor and Statistics data. And once again, this is how the deep state players, the central bankers, this is how they keep the illusion alive. They hire people in government. They say there's plenty of jobs out there. Americans are lazy. They just don't want these jobs. They fill the lower paying jobs with foreign-born individuals. They're saying, oh, Americans don't want that job. That's why we have to bring. The whole thing is one gigantic illusion. And you can see that this entire economic system is based on debt. I mean, right now we just have Black Friday. And most of the people out there most likely probably use their credit cards because, again, if you removed your credit cards and you just had to pay with the cash that you were making from your job, most of the people wouldn't be able to survive. And when you look at how much Americans have spent, they spent a record $11.8 billion online on Black Friday, up 9.1% from last year. So once again, how much was this via the credit cards? This was how they count everything. Now, Is Trump making things cheaper for people? Do people have a little bit more wiggle room? Yes. Do they feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more happier? Yes, they do. But again, in the end, a lot of people are probably using buy now, pay later. A lot of people are using their credit cards because, once again, the inflation that we have experienced up to this point has not gone away. And this is what Trump and the Patriots are about to fix. And while he's trying to fix all this, which he's going to do, he also has to shrink government. He has to get all the illegals and all those people that are dependent on the government. These people have to be put back to work. Remember, there was a study out in the UK letting everyone know that if you pay people, they're not going to want to get a job. They're going to become lazy. This is why the central bank has, and I think everyone heard this probably during COVID also, you heard about universal basic income, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to keep paying people to do nothing. Actually, in the beginning part of COVID, they were paying people, and when jobs started to open up again, a lot of people didn't want to go back to work. Why? They were making more money on the pay, and basically they were like, I really don't want the job. I'd rather just collect this right now. And eventually what happens over time, as they collect this, the people become lazier and lazier and lazier. And even if jobs open up with a little bit more, they don't want to do it. Why? I'm getting this universal basic income. That's what they created in this country. And now Trump and his team, they're reversing all of this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent put this out and said, at Trump's direction, we are working to cut off federal benefits to illegal aliens and preserve them for U.S. citizens. U.S. Treasury announced that it will issue proposed regulations clarifying that the refunded portions of certain individual income tax benefits are no longer available to illegal and other non-qualified aliens, covering the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Additional Child Tax Credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and the Savers Match Credit. Absolutely. And you can see with SNAP and welfare and everything else, all these people are going to be removed because, again, what is Trump doing? He's shrinking the government and those people that are dependent on the government. These people are going to be going back to work. And Trump is already setting it up where people can come back into the real estate market, and he wants a real estate boom because look what has happened in the real estate market. Unusual Whales put this out and said, America's homeowner population has stopped growing. So when you look at this, you could see that people are not buying homes right now. And to buy a home or to build a home that doesn't exist, that actually creates other industries because, again, you have construction, you have tar, you have roofing, you have copper, you have electricians, you have plumbers, you have all of these different things. And if we're not building and if we're not selling existing homes, we have a major, major problem because people that buy existing homes, they end up redoing a lot in their homes, or they end up buying furniture or redoing or, refurbishing, whatever they're going to do. And this is why Trump has continually pushing the 50-year mortgage. Now, I know a lot of people like, oh my God, 50 years, the interest on this is going to be absolutely ridiculous. But again, most people on average own their home for 7 years. So are you going to be paying all this interest out for 50 years? Most likely not. Secondly, when you really look at what Trump is doing and people get him for a lower mortgage rate and their payments are a lot less, Trump is going to just reverse everything the central bank did since 1971. Now, if we go back to 1971, the central bank system worked like this. You bought a home in the 60s or the 50s. Your mortgage is $200 or $300 a month. It's fixed because you have a fixed rate. Yeah, taxes might fluctuate, but pretty much that's what it is. The central bank comes off the gold standard and everything is inflated. Your home value is inflated, but your mortgage payment is not. Your wage is inflated, which makes the mortgage seem very, very small because if you were making $5,000 a year and you were paying a $200 mortgage payment, and then all of a sudden your wage now has been inflated to $15,000, that $200 mortgage payment is the same. Now, if you take this to today and Trump is giving you a 50-year mortgage and you go out and you're spending $1,000 or $1,500 on your home and you're making $60,000, $70,000, let's say, and all of a sudden we go back to the gold standard, your money is worth a lot more because all that inflation disappears, your buying power comes back, and that $60,000, $70,000 actually feels like you're making over $1 million. It works the opposite way. So that mortgage looks very, very small. But to basically spur the real estate market, Trump is starting off with a 50-year mortgage, just like they did going all the way back to President Roosevelt, where they pushed a 30-year mortgage. So is this going to stay long-term? I don't think so. Is this going to help the real estate market? Absolutely. And you can see the deep state players, the central bankers, they're now trying to cover for the affordability crisis that, yes, the central bank has created and the corrupt deep state government people that have created, because as they continually borrow and they take the money and they launder it and they give themselves kickbacks and they send them off to other programs and that's laundered. They're the ones who've been creating all of this. And they're trying to, compare Trump and Mamdani, how they both campaign on affordability. But again, what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that there's really nothing you can do. It can't be solved. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal. Everyone is talking about the affordability crisis. It can't be solved. So the question is, can it be solved? Not the way Mamdani's saying it can be solved. Hey, you know what we'll do? We'll just take everyone's money and give everyone else free stuff. That's not going to solve anything, because that means you have to keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and people are going to be paying for this, which means you're going to have to raise taxes, which means things are not going to be affordable. Actually, the whole system will implode. We've been seeing this. We've been watching it. Trump, once he gets rid of the borrowing mechanism and he has a competing parallel economic system where he's bringing in income, can this actually shut down the affordability crisis? Of course it can, because once you get rid of the central bank, once you get rid of all this borrowing, the buying power comes back to the people. Once you stop taking the internal revenue from the people, just think of your own household, for example. If you're making $60,000, $70,000 and you're getting taxed, let's say $15,000, I'm just making up a number right now, $15,000. If that $15,000 is returned to you, you're now making, let's say it's $70,000, you're making $85,000. You have an extra $15,000. Did Trump just assist in the affordability crisis? Absolutely. Where did he get the money from? Oh, wait, he didn't borrow it. He just said, listen, since we're not borrowing anymore from the central bank and we don't have to pay that back with interest, and we don't have to collect money internally anymore because I could pay for it externally, because now the people that want to sell their products in this country, we're charging them a fee. They're paying for it. So somebody is paying for it, but it's not in this country. That is the difference. And actually, when Trump then says, okay, let's start paying off the debt to the central bank, you know, all that accumulated inflation, which is 3,000% right now, because that's the number, all of a sudden, that 3,000% inflation goes away. So now your buying power completely and utterly returns back to you. And the affordability crisis that they've been talking about, there's no solutions, we don't know how to fix this, all of a sudden it's fixed. It's that simple. And once again, you could see Trump is now doing this via tariffs. He put this out on Truth. He said the following: tariffs have made our country rich, strong, powerful, and safe. They've been successfully used by other countries against us for decades. But when it comes to tariffs, and because of what I have set in place, we have all the cards. And with a smart president, we always will. Wars have been stopped and strong relations with other countries have been built, even though they are not allowed to rip off the United States anymore. The stock market and 401ks have hit an all-time high. Inflation, prices, and taxes are down. Education is being brought back to the United States where it belongs, and our military and our southern border is the strongest they have ever been. The USA is respected again, respected like never before. All of this was brought about by strong leadership and tariffs, without which we would be a poor and pathetic laughingstock again. Evil, American-hating forces are fighting us at the United States Supreme Court. Pray to God that our 9 justices will show great wisdom and do the right thing for America. Absolutely. And you can see that Trump now has the leverage, and you can see those central bankers that do not want the tariffs to succeed, they are panicking. They're going to use everything they possibly have to try to fight against it, because they know once they lose the Supreme Court ruling and Trump wins, now, again, the Supreme Court might say, oh, let's send it back to the lower courts, or they might not give a ruling for quite a while. It doesn't matter which way they do it. Trump always has the leverage. Because once Trump is allowed to use the tariffs like he's using right now, the central bank is finished. They cannot compete against the tariff system. It will be completely impossible. And when Trump is giving everyone a dividend next year, what is the Supreme Court going to do? Saying, listen, you got to give all that money back? Because once that happens and people see that, wow, Trump's system's really working, we're getting additional buying power because we're getting $2,000 a person. So if you have a family of two, that's $4,000. If you have a family of three, it's $6,000. If you have a family of four, that's $8,000. So once again, once people start to see this, they're going to understand the tariff system is basically removing the affordability crisis that the central bank, the corrupt people in government have created. And you can see this is what the past presidents, the tariff men, have done for a very long time. And this is the solution to the central bank system. And in the end, once Trump revalues gold and audits the gold, I think people are going to be absolutely shocked on how the gold that we have and the revaluation of the gold, how that actually cripples the central bank system. Because you're going to see that the currency is worth absolutely nothing. And you're going to see Bitcoin skyrocket. You're going to see gold skyrocket. And it's going to be a disaster for the central bank system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.